What's happening, everybody? It's Sean with Reactions to the Classics. Today we got a reaction to Alice Cooper Band's album, School's Out, brought to us by friend, longtime supporter, and patron of the channel, Carl. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate you. Appreciate all the patrons who make this thing go. If you like sports in any way, check out that Patreon link below, the patron link on the end screen. We could not do it without the patrons. Absolutely true. Spend tons and tons and tons of time every month doing this channel. Super enjoy it. Thank you to the patrons for making that happen. All right. Carl has taken us through the entire Alice Cooper Band catalog. We have 3 albums left, including this one. So this is the 5th studio album released in June of 1972. Remember the previous year, 1971, 2 fantastic albums, Love It to Death and Killer. So those are already up on the channel. Go check those out. Great albums. Following the success of Killer, School's Out reached number 2 on the US Billboard chart and number 1 on the Canadian album chart, holding the top position there for 4 weeks. Australia went to 5. The Finnish and German charts 3, and the UK 4. So they are finally getting that worldwide acclaim. The original cover, designed by Craig Braun, had the sleeve opening in the manner of a wooden school desk, similar to Thinks School Stinks by Hot Legs. Never heard of that. Released 2 years earlier. The vinyl record inside was wrapped in a pair of panties, so this was later discontinued as the paper panties were found to be flammable. Boys and girls, I can't make this stuff up, right? The desk photograph from the album cover is on display in the Hard Rock Cafe in Las Vegas. I bet if you have a copy of that particular one wrapped in the panties, it's probably worth quite a bit of money, or maybe it became combustible. I don't know. Ian Chapman has put forward a theory that it was a concept album about youth lost when leaving school. Recording a conceptual album with any semblance of continuity while executing a major tour went smoother than we had imagined, said Dennis Dunaway, the bass guitarist and guy that did some of the stuff on here. So, I mean, he said it right there in the quote, right? A conceptual album. And Dunaway recalled this in his 2015 autobiography, Snakes, Guillotines, Electric Chairs, My Adventures in the Alice Cooper Group. It's a great name. Fighting through a battlefield of distractions, he said, School's Out got put together like a 5,000-piece puzzle on the dining room table. End quote. Although the title track remains the most performed song in Alice Cooper's live shows, and I would say his most famous song by far, right, is School's Out, Poison has way more streams on Spotify. But, you know, streams on Spotify are always interesting to me, but unless the song's newer that came out while streaming existed when it was brand new, it's just kind of more retrospective of what people go back to. In accordance with the conceptual nature of School's Out, the album has an overall smaller representation in its live set list than Love It to Death, Killer, Billion Dollar Babies, which is next, or Welcome to My Nightmare, accounting for only 6.8% of the songs Cooper has played live. You know, with an older artist, the live numbers are always, people really like to hear those. So let's jump into it. If you've never been on this before, the music will not be in the video, but it'll be a Vimeo link below. So click on that, follow along with us, and we're going to start out with that famous title track, School's Out, written by Alice, Glenn Buxton, Michael Bruce, Dennis Dunaway, and Neil Smith, so everybody. Only single. It was Alice Cooper's biggest international hit. It's been regarded as their signature song. Reached 7 in the US, 3 in Canada, 1 in UK. And in 2015, it was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. Cooper said he was inspired to write the song when answering the question, quote, what's the greatest 3 minutes of your life? He said there's 2 times during the year. One is Christmas morning when you're just getting ready to open the presents. The greed factor is right there. The next one is the last 3 minutes of the last day of school when you're sitting there and it's like a slow fuse burning. I remember those days, especially in elementary school, right? You're just about to get out. It was like freedom, man. It was unbelievable. I said, if we can catch that 3 minutes in the song, it's going to be so big. Alice is a smart dude. Cooper's also said it was inspired by a line from a Bowery Boys movie. On his radio show, Nights with Alice Cooper, he joked that the main riff of the song was inspired by a song by Miles Davis. He said the guitarist Glenn Buxton created the song's opening riff. The lyrics of it indicate that not only is the school year ended for summer vacation, but ended forever, and that the school itself has been literally blown up. It incorporates a childhood rhyme, no more pencils, no more books, no more teachers' dirty looks, into its lyrics. I don't know that childhood rhyme. It's also featured children contributing some of the vocals. Innocence in the lyric and We Got No Innocence is frequently changed in concert to intelligence and sometimes replaced with etiquette. The song obviously ends with the school bell and the fade out. Some radio stations banned the song from their airwaves, stating that the song gave the students an impression of rebelliousness against childhood education. Man, what are we doing? What were we doing back then? Teachers, parents, principals, counselors, and psychologists also shunned the song and demanded several radio stations ban the song from ever being played on the air. We just didn't figure it out in the 60s and 70s, right? The number one way to make kids want to hear something is to tell them that they can't. I mean, no, it's no different now. Alice said back in an Esquire interview in 2009, he said, when we did Schools Out, I knew we had just done the national anthem. I've become the Francis Scott Key of the last day of school. He was so sure of the song's potential that he said, if this isn't a hit, he told Bob Ezrin, the producer, said, if this isn't a hit, I might as well start selling shoes. All right, man. Great info on that song. I don't have that much info really on much of anything else. Not like that, but I know it's one of his seminal songs. I'm going to have the lyrics up as always. Thanks again, Carl. All right, obviously a fantastic song. You know, I don't really know this song real well. I know the whole chorus, like School's Out. I mean, I know that part. I don't really know most of the other song because it's before my time and all that, but I've heard that chorus a ton of times. But Glenn Buxton on the lead guitar, great way to start the song to kind of pull you in right to that mainstream popularity. But I like verse 2. Well, we got no class, well, we got no principles, and we got no innocence. We can't even think of a word that rhymes. Like, that's hilarious, man, because you know, the standard, you got to have 4 lines to every verse, and they couldn't come up with something that rhymed with innocence or principle. So they just said, we can't think of a word that rhymes. But the way he sings, I'd never noticed it the few times I'd heard that song, but just a fantastic song. Not really any other songs on here that are popular at all. There's only 2 other songs that even have 1 million streams. School's Out has 187 million streams. This next song, Looney Tune, has 1 million streams, but I think that's just because people are listening to School's Out and it rolls to that song. And then one other song, which I'll mention when I get there. So Looney Tunes written by Cooper and Dunaway. And that's really all I got on. I don't have a lot on the rest of these songs. All right, let's do it. All right, this was definitely not a jazz song, but you could see some more of their jazz influence on here. So before I get into the song, imagine, you know, School's Out was their breakthrough hit, obviously, as I mentioned. And so the song, the title track. And a lot of people didn't know who they were because even though Love It to Death and Killer had some success, there's nothing like having a song that goes into the top 5 of the charts and it pulls everything up. So you listen to that first song and you're like, yeah, man. And then this song comes in and it's totally different. And it's about somebody being put in an insane asylum. And then instead of trying to get out by the last verse, ends up stealing a razor from the commissary, slits his wrist, I'm assuming he's laying there dying like a sewer rat. So I'm like, wait a minute, what just happened? We're out of school. We're all happy. Now this guy's dying. And I love it, man. It's Alice Cooper Band, man. Love the turn. Next up, we have Gutter Cat versus the Jets. Buxton, Dunaway, Leonard Bernstein, and Stephen Sondheim. I'll get to that in a minute. Alice told Music Radar in 2013, our band was not as much influenced by the blues as we were by West Side Story and Guys and Dolls, James Bond and horror movies. We didn't mind that seeping into our music. I didn't mind doing the Jets song. Again, it was what we were. You know, in a lot of kids' cases, we were the closest thing they'd ever get to seeing a play or something on Broadway. I thought putting West Side Story in would inspire people. You know, what is this thing they're doing? In the era we were in, that was a really big deal. And we thought it was cool. So that's where you get the Sondheim and Bernstein co-writers. All right, Gutter Cat versus the Jets, a very, very ambitious song. It was kind of all over the place. Not really in a bad way. I don't think it's a tune you really go back and listen to a lot. Some of you may. But, you know, a very interesting, creative song. This album's like all over the place. Once again, not in a bad way. But, you know, if you bought it and thought every song was going to kind of sound like School's Out, 3/4 songs through, you were probably disappointed at the time. But, you know, it starts off with a bunch of instrumentation before Alice even comes in, you know, bass, riff, and then we kind of get that organ and finger snapping, and then we go into that last verse. And then we went into the next one, into Street Fight, because it just takes the previous track to its destination, plays a fight scene in the background from the Jets and the Cats, and it has that just furious bass line in there. So it all works together. So, like I said, super creative. Now we're going to finish out side one with a Cooper and Bruce written song, Blue Turk. The bass starts this one as well, I saw. So, yeah, let's do it. Blue Turk. The lyrics, I think, are about hooking up, like the actual act. I'll leave it there, boys and girls. We'll keep this PG-13. But the music is total jazz. Dennis Dunaway is on fire with his bass in the last 2/3 songs. Like Street Fight's considered a separate track, but it's only 53 seconds, so it's really just an add-on to Gutter Cat versus the Jazz. So however you want to characterize those. But I mean, he's just been on fire with that. So I mean, you almost got a lounge lizard sound out of Alice, which is perfect for this song, right? Multiple horn solos on here. The guitar works really good. I mean, all of it kind of shines on here. I mean, I don't even know what I think of the song, but it's impressive instrumentation. You got Wayne Andre with a trombone on this thing. That was Cooper Band with the trombone. So we went from the first track, Rockin' Out with School's Out, to finish in side one with the trombone. I mean, you're not going to get that everywhere, boys and girls. Start out side two with a Cooper and Bob Ezrin written tune. We got My Stars. My Stars. I'm assuming Ezrin's playing the keyboards on here. He's an additional musician in the liner credit, so I would guess it's probably this song, might be others as well, but since he co-wrote it. It's almost like a godlike figure, the lyrics, but an interesting song, right? Some change-ups. I mean, all kinds of stuff going on in this song. This is the first one, and I mean, it is the longest track so far, but I mean, it's not much longer than Blue Turf. This is the first one where I felt it was a little long, like it drug a little bit. It's not a bad song. This album is very interesting outside of School's Out. I mean, we still got 3 songs left, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself here and give you a summation. Next up, we have Public Animal number 9. Public Animal number 9. Pretty catchy. Pretty catchy. Much catchier than the last few tracks. You know, he's kind of just a petty thief, right? She wanted a Einstein. She got a Frankenstein. It's got some really good writing in here, but hey. Can't ever go wrong with that. We got 2 tracks left, although the last track's an instrumental. So one track left with lyrics. We got Alma Mater, written by Neil Smith, the drummer. Alma Mater, as I said, written by the drummer Neil Smith. It's a little different writing style here. It's about his alma mater. He even mentions Camelback. He went to Camelback High School in Arizona. So, you know, he's just saying how he liked it there, he missed it there, but then he's glad he was gone. But then at the very end, gives they're playing a little bit of Happy Trails on the guitar. I mean, I looked everywhere like, I guess this is Alice singing. It really doesn't sound like him. I'm like, is Neil Smith singing this? But I couldn't find anywhere that anyone else was credited on the song. So it's got to be Alice, but just a different vocal style. Now we're going to finish it off appropriately enough with Grand Finale, an instrumental and a track that is credited as songwriters to the entire band. I know I've used this word a lot of this album, but it's really true. Interesting way to finish this album. Switches up the last 30 seconds and gets into kind of like a mid-70s TV show theme or something. And it ends with pow. A little jazzy in there for the first part of it. I don't know, man. Got woodwinds in there, strings. We got everything in here. It kind of fits with the rest of the album besides School's Out. So, I mean, it wasn't bad or anything. All right, now we're going to get to my favorite tracks, and it's easy. There's only 9 songs. Honorable mention, Looney Tune, the second song on here. Favorite, School's Out. That's it. Now, it's not a bad thing. I'll get to that now. It's not a bad thing as we go to my overall score. This album kind of is all over the place. There's all kinds of styles, all kinds of things on it. It's definitely not on the level of Love It to Death or Killer. What it reminds me of is their debut album, Pretty's For You, which you can go back and watch that review. The album's awful. It's not their fault. It's a long story. You can go watch it if you don't know the story. Worst rating I've ever given on this channel, and I have over 3,000 videos up. Not their fault, though. This kind of seems to me like an album that could have been, if they would have actually been produced and had help and wasn't, they were just put in an awful situation that out. So it's not a bad album at all. Like, I don't dislike any of the songs. And it shows their versatility. It shows their versatility arrangement-wise and musicianship-wise. Alice kind of giving different vocal performances. It's not bad at all. It's just not Killer or Love It to Death, but those albums are fantastic. So I'm going to be right at about a 7.0 on this. It's an album I'm glad I listened to. It's almost for me more like an artistic statement to where it's good to listen through once. I'm not going to re-listen to this album. If you do, that's great. I get it. For me, though, I'm glad I listened to it, and it's a good offering. So I'm going to do a 7.0. Now, Billion Dollar Babies is next. I know a lot of people put that as the best album right there with Killer and Love It to Death. I'm very much looking forward to that. We still got 2 albums left. There's an Alice Cooper Band playlist down below. Go check that out. You can go back and watch the other vids. There's also an Alice Cooper Top 10 that another one of our patrons, Evan David, did a couple years ago. But let me know what you think of this album down below. Like, where do you rank it? with the other albums, or what grade do you give them? What are your favorite tracks on here? Thanks again to Carl for bringing it. Until next time, guys, I will see you.